Thank you, Steve. And back.
Hi, I'm Ray Somich with the Willoughby Hills City Council, and I have a comment and a much short question and one a little longer question. The comment, since we're all here together, I do applaud everybody bringing us together to discuss this on a regional basis, but I think it's well worth it. We won't have time to do that. But just as a comment from our community, Willoughby Hills, as we look at the city of Cleveland and a lakefront development, which everybody talks about doing and wants to do, certainly that would be a nice thing to do, but there's a lot of other things that the city of Cleveland needs to do as well, philosophically and materially, to turn our city of Cleveland around, which we all want to happen. While we're pondering perhaps closing Burke and allowing some lakefront development, let's please keep in mind that we have literally thousands and thousands of people who live in the communities surrounding Cuyahoga County Airport who are affected virtually every hour of every day by traffic and proposed increased traffic and proposed expansion of that airport. And so while we are pondering what may be good for the city here, let's keep in mind, please, that there are no residents that are adversely affected by any growth at this airport compared to, again, thousands of them that are affected out in the eastern suburbs. My first question after that is a real short one, and I see our gentleman here from a great business in Northeast Ohio, which is Flight Options. I would like to know if they have been talked to at all in terms of the possibility of moving their operations from Cuyahoga County with this regionalism idea to perhaps Burke Lakefront. Has that even been, is that consideration that they listened to?
I don't know who's here from Flight Options. Do you want to come up?
Sure.
This is Jim Miller. He's with Flight Options. Go ahead.
I'm interested in this answer.
Great question.
There's nothing like being put on the spot when you're not necessarily a speaker. We've gone publicly on the record and say that as long as we have suitable facilities in the area that would support our operations and there's no economic impact to Flight Options, that we'd be pleased to relocate or to accommodate the various communities. That having been said, if there's someone in this room I haven't spoken to that's associated with the Cleveland airspace system or the Cleveland airport systems, please come forward and I'll entertain any questions, and I'll stand prepared to help in this process any way I can. And
for the record, could you just state what Flight Options does exactly?
okay, Flight Options is a company that is primarily in what's called the fractional aircraft business. These are corporate aircraft. They're all jet aircraft. Their performance is very much like airliners, but they're smaller. Many of our airplanes are faster than airliners, so we don't have necessarily the mix issues that Steve talked about. But of course, every time we land, we're taking a 2-minute chunk out of whatever airport's capacity there is. So if we were to move, for example, to Hopkins, that would have a very negative effect. We operate today about 140 aircraft. We employ about 1,600 people. Cleveland, Cuyahoga County is our headquarters. We have 5 other maintenance bases around the country, including Teterboro, West Palm, Las Vegas, Sacramento, and Dallas. So it's a good-sized company. We contribute somewhere in the neighborhood of $80 million to the local economy, and you know that's kind of the nutshell. I have a nice slideshow for you, but I'm doing this off the top of my head. So yeah, to be a little less obtuse, yes, we are speaking to people about that possibility and others.
Thank you very much, Jim Miller.
Okay, sure.
Did
Short question. Could I let you one more?
you do? Is it for Jim or is it for somebody else? Okay.
This is actually for Mr. Nagy.
Okay.
And I heard you again speak today about the airspace over Cleveland being the busiest in the country, if not the world. Mr. Nagy and I have had that same conversation in several meetings. I fail to understand it, and I ask you to please clarify and help me to understand the situation, because I know that there are many airports across this country that are far busier than Cleveland happens. Just traveling over the last 6 months, you can name them, Chicago and Atlanta and Los Angeles and Washington and New York, and the list goes on and on and on. So we have a whole lot of planes that are flying between, to and from all of those airports, but they're flying way up on top, at whatever that is, 40,000 feet or whatever it is. And meanwhile, you've got this regional and local traffic that is flying below that is using the regional airports. I fail to understand how the fact that this airspace way up high affects the use of the county airports, because those planes are not landing, those big planes that are using this airspace are not landing at Hopkins. Hopkins is, from all reports, it's not on the list by the FAA of being one that's in danger of being over capacity. I just flew in this morning, that's why I was late,
Okay.
because I came back and the airport was, I would consider it reasonably dead. So, I mean, there's not a lot of planes, relatively speaking, coming in and out of Hopkins. So they're all flying overhead. How does that really affect what's landing at the county airports?
Okay. Just to restate it quickly, in case anyone who's viewing the webcast didn't hear, or any of you didn't hear, Councilman Selmage's question has to do with the connection between the airspace at the upper levels, 40,000 feet, and the traffic down below at all of our local airports.
Sure.
Steve Nagy.
Councilman, I'd be happy to clarify that. When we speak of the busiest airspace in the world, if you go on the FAA.gov website and go to Oberlin Air Traffic Control Center's homepage on there, they call themselves the center of it all, and they kind of go into a detailed technical explanation. I'm not an air traffic controller, so I'll kind of give you my interpretation of how they would describe it. But when you look at air traffic being moved within a 5-state region in the southern part of Canada, right around the other side of the Great Lakes, all of that traffic basically is handled by the Oberlin Air Route Traffic Control Center, located in west suburban northeastern Ohio. And they also handle any throughput. Once you start getting into the higher altitudes, any traffic that's going from the west coast to the east coast to the west coast, traffic at O'Hare, Detroit, Pittsburgh, Cleveland, Columbus, Buffalo, and all the major airports in between. The air traffic controllers at Oberlin Air Route Traffic Control Center handle all that traffic. So when you have airports on the ground in this 5-state region, whether they're air carrier airports, corporate and reliever airports, or even small privately held airfields or small municipal or county airports throughout that area, all that goes into the mix of the Oberlin Air Traffic Route Control Center, including the planes landing and taking off at Hopkins, Detroit, and all these other ones. So they're moving a congested kind of super highway in the air, and then the ability to move planes that are going to the airports in our 5-state region through there efficiently and safely and in the quickest manner they can, up and down to Cleveland, up and down to Detroit, O'Hare, and others, really determines what their throughput capacity and their overall ability to handle traffic is for a large part of the national airspace system. So Hopkins itself doesn't have to be the busiest airport, or Detroit Metro, or Pittsburgh, but the traffic area above us, handled by the same people who handle the traffic at all these airports, it has to be taken into effect.
Can I?
If I may, it sounds, the analogy is sort of that Hopkins is an extremely important exit ramp to the highway. Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay. Does that clear it up a little bit?
Not at all, not at all. I appreciate that, and I understand the traffic controllers are the busiest in the country, okay? But they're not at these regional airports. I still don't understand the connection between these small planes flying out of the regional airports and big planes that are flying across.
I'm gonna suggest it's like the inner belt, right, and the Ontario Street ramp, where or something like that, one of those downtown ramps where you're trying to get on and you've got to get up to speed really quickly. Is this?
That's a good analogy.
Yeah. And so Hopkins is like that really short ramp that maybe there aren't that many people using all the time, but at rush hour they are. Is that right? I feel like, yeah, okay.
Yeah, that's a good analogy.
I'm trying to, I don't know. We've got a lot of questions to get to. I'm sure that Steve would be happy to talk to you about it.